have even more cars here today, more fun. We got great weather set up. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring up Bob Hall, one of my best friends, who I worked with for many years, and he will tell you about the earliest days of how the Miata came to be. Take it away, Bobby.
Okay, welcome to class. Please remember, you will be quizzed afterwards. Okay, all of you. No one escapes. No one will leave here without answering an important question. I want to say something. A lot of people have been saying, thank you, Bob. Okay, totally unnecessary. Thank you for loving the car. Thank you for buying it. Okay, because it doesn't exist because of me or for me. It's for you guys. Okay, always will be. That's what we're doing. There's been a lot of question, who is the father of the Miata? Okay, not that it really matters, and I don't know if Mrs. Miata has been worried about support payments, but the actual father of the Miata is this bloke here, okay, a guy named Junjiro Matsuda. And Mr. Matsuda founded what became Mazda Motor Corporation, originally as Toyo Cork Products. Now, the philosophy of the company allowed the Miata to exist. And I think the secret is he did cork products. He didn't do, for example, looms. Okay, I mean, what kind of sports car could a loom manufacturer make? I mean, probably a pretty cheesy one. So, like any other vehicle, it has to start somewhere. This psychopathic scribbling was done by a known sociopath who is standing on the stage in front of you. Now, this sketch, and I shouldn't call it, it's unfair to call it a sketch, isn't it, Tom? This scribble was extremely important. In fact, more important than anybody in here understands, okay? It wasn't just about the Miata. It was career guidance. Okay? And this is why I got into product planning, because God knows I ain't no designer. However, you've got inspiration for everything you do. Tom is always inspired. I'm often perspiring. But the inspiration behind the Miata is something I think a lot of you guys can relate to. A lot of you. And hundreds of thousands of people worldwide can as well. This is the inspiration for the Miata.
Broken down.
Anybody that's owned one understands, okay? In actuality, and unlike a loom company, since Mazda made cork products, they were actually able to do a sports car. The original Cosmo Sports, known in export as the Mazda 110S, was Mazda's first rotary engine car, and it was also Mazda's first big car with 4 wheels. Because Mazda made 3-wheel trucks and little micro mini cars for Japan. Another car that was a strong, I guess, DNA repository for us was the original SA RX-7. Now, just to give you an idea of the time frame that the Miata was developed in, the scribble on the chalkboard was done just after tax day in 1979 in conference room 401 at Hiroshima Mazda headquarters. And Mr. Yamamoto, who's head of R&D, later became president, later became chairman, and will always be one of the greatest engineers on the face of this planet. He said, "Oh, Bottom, what should we do after RX-7?" And I just did that. And he kind of said, okay, poker-faced, and I forgot about it. I got hired by Mazda in 1981, on the 21st of October, but who's keeping track? Late in January, Mr. Yamamoto shows up in Japan, in the States. I'm working at the California Design Center, and I work on B-Series pickup trucks. There's this tap on my shoulder. "Oh, hi, boss. What are you doing, boss? B-Series pickup truck. It's a waste of time. You should do your small sports car." And I'm like, "Small sports car? What are you talking about?" I had forgotten about it. Because I was working on the B-Series pickup truck, which is so important. It wasn't. When Japan said, and this is jumping ahead a little bit. When Japan said, "We're going to do the car," I had to come up with a concept, and I did an 18-page document that was sent out, and my boss said, "The documents for concepts are only 1 page." So we sent the 18-pager, and we did this. These were the touch points the car had to hit. But Ida-san, my boss, said, "We've never done a car like this. What isn't it?" It's a very good question. So I thought we need an anti-concept, and he said, no, we need a non-sept. And this was Mr. Eve's idea. This we made 2 copies of. One was packed to Toshihiko Hirai, who was the program manager for the first car, and the other one went to the head of product planning. And I don't think Mazda has ever used it since. But I think it's also one of the things that helps the MX-5 be what the MX-5 is, because we've got 10 touch points on each of these. But in actuality, the MX-5's concept is utterly simple, okay? And that's the concept right there that you see before you, okay? Less is more. The reason this car is here, the reason there's a first, a second, a third, and a fourth generation of this car is because that was the approach that was taken with it. Just think for a minute. Honda's working on a new car, the S1600, which is how it started. And they said, we can put more power in it. We can give it a bigger engine. We can make it roomier. We can make it rev to 9,000 RPM and sound horrible. Okay. Toyota, we can do a more powerful MR2. Let's put a 2-liter in it. Pontiac, well, let's not go there. So that is the reason this car has gone 25 years. It's the reason there are 3 generations. Were there in generation 4 of the Solstice yet? Oh no. Because I was told I had to work on the B-Series pickup truck, Mr. Yamamoto went to my boss, and my boss came back and says, Bob-san, Yamamoto-san says you must work on the sports car project, but, because the B-Series is important, you can do it as much as you want before 8:30 in the morning. You can work on it as much as you want between noon and 1, and you can work on it as much as you want after 5:30. So for 7 years, I came in at 6 in the morning. And I, recognizing my incredible and utter lack of talent in design, worked on concept and package and what the car had to do. There are 2 gentlemen here, Mark Jordan. Mark Jordan is here. Mark, are you here? Okay, there's the guy. Wave again, tall guy. When Mark came in, it doubled the size of the design department. As Mr. Yagi was going on. When the B-Series pickup truck project finished, Yagi-san started doing some sketches very reluctantly. Then Mark came in the 3rd quarter of the year. We pinched him from Opel, okay, the German branch of General Motors. And Mark, of course, moving to the States, didn't know where to live, so he lived in the same condo area as me. And of course, to help Mark out, I offered to carpool with him. So I dragged him in early in the morning, forced him to do sketches, okay? I gave him his own lunch hour. And then after work, we left late when I forced him to do more sketches. So the actual sketch of this car started in 1982. Subsequently, Japan got interested in the idea of a small sports car. And we had the main studio in Hiroshima, and they opened a new studio in Tokyo in an office building. And each of these guys had their own concept. So they allowed us to do a competition. Now, you have to understand, the entire NASA system was set up to bring cars in as replacements for cars that were already there. There was no process at the time to put something new into the model mix. Just, why? So this car was being handled by a group called Technical Research Division, which is a new group that was just kind of studying human factors and such. Some people understood it, some people just kind of, it was like deer in the headlights. So we had the sketch program, and they decided we're going to do clay models. Now, the plan that Japan had was, we have 3 sketches. One of the vehicles will be eliminated, then we'll do 2 clay models, and then one of those will be eliminated. And one car will go to management and say, please, sir, why don't you build this? Not quite, but we had this program. Now, in 1983, second half, was it 3rd quarter, Tom? Oh, we hired Tomatano, who we hired from BMW. We really had a thing about hiring guys from German companies, okay? And Tom's first project was the first MPV of Mazda. Now, you have never seen this vehicle. I wish I had a slide of it. It was the only sexy MPV I've ever seen in my life, and it was sexy. And Tom did what we call a full-scale model out of foam. Now, most models are made out of clay, but in the early 80s, a lot of guys were saying styrofoam is the material of the future. And Tom did it, and it was agony. It was awful. When Tom got back from this project, he jumped into the MX-5 program. He was the best salesman to give us a clay studio so we could do a clay model. No, everybody laughs, but it's true. So we got to do the clay with the other ones. And I have to say, first of all, welcome, Tom, and thank you, Tom. So we do the clay model. Isn't that great? Looks like a real car, doesn't it? Okay, maybe not. Is that one better?
Yeah.
Okay. This was the very first three-dimensional MX-5. Now, we had no package. We had no engineering support. We basically did this. It was a guerrilla program. And we used one item. It had a first-generation RX-7 rear axle. That set the track, and the design guys, knowing what looks good, they set the wheelbase based on what looked good. No engineering support for this at all. And when you do a clay model like this, you have to show it to bosses. And we show it with some competitive vehicles. You see, and everybody's there going, huh? It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. The Mazda blokes in the States pretty much had an idea of what we were trying to get at. And there's Mark Jordan and I on the far right attempting to put the top up on the Lotus. Okay? We weren't able to do it because neither one of us is a PhD. So we took this car, we made a hard top for it, and we packed it off to Japan. Now, in Japan, they had a competition between us, Hiroshima, and the Tokyo studio. And what happened was, attention Kmart shoppers, we have a blue light special on. Sorry, he's all done. By the way, where are we today? Where is this? Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. Ready? Mazda Raceway. That was really good. It's an A-. Okay, you guys are doing okay. This was a design off. Far left was the front wheel drive coupe. In the middle was the mid-engine, midship car. And we were at the right, the top moved here. When we did the presentation, the top stayed on. The top was removed. The man who is the chief designer for the mid-engine car, a guy named Yoichi Sato, who was hired at Mazda, as I was, to meet a employment quota for crazed people. Sato jumps up and says, build that one. So we had one car that we pushed to management, and our godfather, Mr. Matsui at Technical Research Division, he proposed doing something Mazda had never done before. He said, let's take that car and let's make it drivable. So all the design work, we won. I forgot that was in there. Okay. All the design work was packed off to an outfit called IAD in Great Britain, in beautiful Worthing. And they built a completely drivable car. Now, again, the engineering was off the cuff. They said, well, we'll use an RX-7 rear axle too. It was powered by you guys remember the GLC?
Yeah.
It had a powerful GLC 1.4 single carb engine. I tell you, the stuff sports is made of. It was short on sport. Now, because we now have this quasi-official project, Japan says, we're gonna give you some engineering support. And they brought some guys in and gave us a vehicle package. And the package was using new suspension. They said they accepted the fact we'd have an all-new car. So they gave us a new package and we did a second car. And here's the second generation model. It was a second generation car. And it was smaller. So we had this car built in Britain and it's gotta get to Hiroshima. So we sent it by way of California, as you would. And we put it up with this car for comparative purposes. Now, on the right is the second proposal. On the left is the proof of concept vehicle based on the first proposal. And you might notice there's a slight difference in size. When you figure that other car is about 9 feet away from the other one. From the rear, it was more obvious. It was huge. And the best thing that came out from this stage was they gave us a real package that was where we wanted the car to be. Now we've got this car, it cost close to $1 million on a project that is top secret. At this time, our design center was in one part of Irvine, California, and Mazda's headquarters for the sales organization was another. No one in the headquarters building knew we were doing this. Okay, nobody. This is secret beyond compare. And we were told, if you tell somebody at the sales company, you basically be looking for a new job. So what do you do when you have a top secret project like this, and $1 million car, irreplaceable? You wrap it up and you put it in the back of a flatbed truck. Okay? Then you drive 90 miles up the coast to Santa Barbara, take the cover off and look at the car with other things. The toughest part of this entire project, and Norman Garrett, who drove the proof of concept car, he's here, wave, Norman, wave, hello, good to see you, Norman. Norman can verify this. The toughest part of this job was getting that damn Spitfire up to Santa Barbara without it breaking down. Wasn't that right, Norman? Damn right, okay. So, we have it there, and of course you've got the car that's top secret and people are seeing. So what's the other thing you do? You take it to a shopping center and see what they're selling at Costco, okay? The man who helped us with this, I think he's the last shot, you see the gentleman with the tie? That's Mr. Matsui. He was the godfather to get this project done. He was so chuffed. When he went back, he told, this is pretty good. And we had another guy named Akio Uchiyama, who was head of our organization, and he had a private chat with Mr. Yamamoto, and Uchiyama, I remember this, I was told by Yamamoto later, I said, did Uchiyama help us? He says, yes and no. And he says, Uchiyama came and chatted, and I asked him, how do you feel about the sports car project? He knew what we were doing. And he goes, I don't understand it, and I don't think it's so good. And then he said, but to everybody working on it, Japanese American, it's a religion. So he says, I think we need to do something with it, even though I don't like it. And Yamamoto took that into consideration, and they gave us approval. And we had an order, and Tom was running the show then. What happened is the gentleman who was in charge of the design center, Mr. Fukuda in California, he did such a good job of keeping me from killing someone or from, embarrassing the company. They made him head of Mazda design. So he gave us the order, final model, and that's where we got this. Oops, I went the wrong way. No, I went the right way. Here we go. Now you look at that, we're almost there. It's just some details, tail lights, door handles. We wanted to call it, by the way, 1600S. Pretty good name, huh? But, and we were on top of the world because this car is now going to get built. So you had a bunch of cocksure bozos there, kind of like, ha, ha, ha. We look like we're out of an AT&T ad, looking like, real estate people. Is that an awful ad or what? Show of hands, please. I agree completely. All right. We send the model back to Japan. Now, Fukuda's been off. He doesn't see it. And he looks at the car and he goes, ugh, it's almost as fat as Bob is. So the model we thought was perfect and going to be built was worked on by Fukuda-san's people, and now we're looking at basically the production car made out of clay. And I'm going to back up, and I want you to look at areas. I'm going to come over here. If you can't see me, I'll come over there too and trip over the new car. Look at the area on the lower body. Look at the area around the air intake, okay? And we'll go back to and we had these flat sides, and it did look fat. We were around it so much we didn't see it. Fukuda saw it, knew. His guys fixed it, and they did fix it. That's basically the car we know today with a few detail changes. Then they built a thing called a solid model, which is like this. This is not a real car. It looks it, but in fact it's solid, and it's powered by a bunch of hamsters that we got out of a Kia Soul. Okay? And the way we keep them working is we haven't fed them in weeks. Every once in a while we put the thing of Niblet's corn in there. We can hear them fighting. It's scary. So Fukuda-san was happy. He gave it the solid model. Now that car, minus the door handles and the tonneau cover, is the production car. That model was brought to Pasadena, California, shown to the public, and we had a price point we expected the car to sell for. And when we asked people, what do you think? What do you think this car should sell for? They were like, $18,000. So we must have done something right. Here's Fukuda-san giving it the sign-off. And the next stage that happened, as we all know, is we had a car, a real car that you could get in and drive, and I guess that's kind of the end of the beginning, okay? No, hold it. Because now, Tom Matano, who is probably the best hiring job I ever did in my life, okay? Tomo's here. I will hand him the microphone, and I will let you have a relaxation from my babbling. We will have a question and answer, and you will be asked questions as well. So remember, you are going to get quizzed.